Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
And welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about defense in the digital age. And I had the privilege of being a featured speaker at the largest Midwest conference on AI during Great Lakes AI Week. And I met a number of individuals who are the leaders in their field speaking on AI, as well as head of major corporations and organizations, higher education, and a number of students that also attended. And I had an opportunity to talk to a chief technology officer. And if you don't know what a chief technology officer is, it is a senior executive responsible for overseeing the technological direction and innovation strategy of a company. And so I had the privilege to talk to Mr. Thomas Whang, who is the CTO at Impelix. Thomas has been in the trenches for almost 30 years and has seen cyber threats change over time, from the early days of dial-up wars to the more advanced attacks we see today. And his wide range of experience includes protecting the data of big companies around the world and in the money of small credit unions in different regions. He has done it all, from working with federal agents on cyber crime investigations to handling incident responses for big businesses. Thomas' mission is simple: help businesses thrive in the digital age without worrying about cyber threats. And he is driven by an unending passion for security. He thinks that real security gives people power, which lets businesses focus on what they do best, their main mission. So you're getting ready to hear an interview I had with Mr. Thomas Whang. Thomas, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gore. I appreciate the invitation.
Yes. So can you explain, again, from cybersecurity, if you could define it, because I do have a number of listeners who think that they know what cybersecurity is, but they may not realize all that it entails.
Cybersecurity is, the ability to secure a logical environment. Just like we have police securing physical environments, cybersecurity is securing the logical environments. How you operate on your network, how you operate on the internet, right? There are practices, there are products, there are services that you can consume so that you help ensure that your operations are not being maliciously attacked and potentially creating some sort of interruption to your operations.
I think of large organizations who have cybersecurity, maybe it's something that's a regular conversation, but if they're smaller organizations and maybe sole proprietors, what advisement would you give anyone who's thinking about cybersecurity, or they think they have it, but they're not sure if they have enough of it? What would you suggest?
The first thing is awareness, right? Ensure that you understand that no matter how large or how small you are, there is a target to you, right? Because we all operate on the network, right? Anything that's on the internet can be remotely accessible. If it's remotely accessible, then it is vulnerable. And that's what the bad actors are going after, is the vulnerability of how you are on the network, right? So no matter whether you're a sole proprietor or whether a small shop or a large shop, right? The same level of care and understanding needs to exist. So the first thing is you need to be aware of your risks, that when you operate or when you use the internet, there's a level of risk that is introduced to your organization. Find someone that can help you shine some light into that aspect of it, because once you know, then you'll be able to take the appropriate actions to take, right? The old Donald Rumsfeld setting, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
Right? And that is the first thing you need to address, is we need to know as much as we can of our environment so that you can secure it, right? The typical saying that security practitioners will say is, you can't secure what you don't know. right?
Yes.
So you need to know your environment, and you need to know what you have so that you can put the appropriate strategic and tactical plan to secure your environment.
Who would you think would do the strategic plan on that? I know you just mentioned hiring a firm, and your firm does this kind of work too.
Yes, so we are essentially an advisor, an implementation, and also a managed service provider. We have different business units in that respect, and we work with small organizations all the way up to multinational. But the goals are the same, right? How do we make sure that your operations are operating in a safe manner so that you can keep doing what you're doing, right? Is there a way for us to help you offload some of that risk, some of that overhead, right? And along the way, help you understand the risks, and so that you can make appropriate decisions, right, for your business.
I do think of some clients that I've talked to that even in their insurance, they're looking at their insurances. And I talked to them about cybersecurity insurance. And I said, well, do I need that? Does that cover? And so there's additional pieces to policies that you should be looking at. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So cyber insurance is a necessary tool, right? And it is a tool, not the answer, right? It is a tool so that it can help you survive and or get over a scenario when you are impacted by an attack where it disrupts your operations, right? It's there as a insurance, right, to help you get back on your feet and move forward. But with that said, insurance requires, right, a level of effort, a level of attestation, a level of agreement that states for the insurance carrier to cover you for these malicious activities that interrupt your business. We expect the covered companies to do their responsibility, right? Their part, all right? And that's the part that the insurance carriers are honing in on. Is it's really a self-assessment that says, have you done this? Yes. Have you done this? Have you done? But that will, when the time occurs, when you are in a situation where you're going to call the insurance and put a claim in, they're going to use that as a way of saying, did you do this? Do you have evidence to show that we're doing, you're doing what you said you do, right? Because they want to make sure that you did your part, and they want to hold you accountable in your actions, and that's our industry is all about accountability.
Can you think of an instance that your company helped save, or again, put a plan together to offset a malicious attack?
We've been part of many incident responses, and ultimately, when you get down to the root cause, it always boils down to the fact that the leadership and the executives knew what they needed to do, but there was never enough support and resources and funding to say, we have to do this, right? So ultimately, they kick the can down the road, which then results into a situation. Now it's a fire alarm, right? It's a fire drill. At that point, unfortunately, that's when the checks get signed, right? So it's a unfortunate situation where a lot of times the only way you actually get budget is after a cyber incident, right? And what we want to do is we want to educate, because again, it goes back to my first point about awareness, right? If you are aware of the risks and you can understand that here's what the cost of a incident would be, here's the cost of us doing the right thing to mitigate that risk. So if it's going to cost $1 million in a cyber incident, but it's only going to cost you $100,000, right, to implement the security measures that mitigates or reduces the impact of that. From a business leader perspective, that should make sense, right? With that said, the next part of that is educating them on ensuring that it does make sense, right? That's the part of the IT leadership and those that are involved in the day-to-day is showing the value of everything that we do in support of the business. I always say that cybersecurity is a cost center, right? There's no direct revenue to offset our costs. So what we have to do is we have to bridge that gap by creating this dotted line that says these actions that we're doing to secure your environment is going to either increase resiliency, right, which means less loss in downtimes, right? You're going to have better security, which means you're going to be able to detect and respond quicker, which means the overall impact is going to get reduced. The term that we use is the blast radius, right? The whole idea of everything that cybersecurity is meant to do is reduce that blast radius to get it as small as possible, right? The reason why it's so big when an event occurs and stops operations is because appropriate actions were not in place to minimize that blast radius. So by compartmentalizing and being able to reduce that radius, then it's easier to detect, easier to respond. And when you do have a scenario, it's less impacting to your operations. Right?
I'm thinking about a circumstance of, like, again, those that have frontline, and AI has been a big discussion.
Yes.
And I think about the opportunity where you're encouraging your workforce to go out there and learn everything you can about AI, right? But that means that they're going to go out on the internet. There's some interaction with OpenAI, and many of them are going to go there first because they might not take the road to pay for a subscription to do this, right?
Absolutely.
So what are you seeing with AI and how that is impacting cybersecurity?
It has both a positive and a negative impact, right? I'll start with the negative and then end with the positive.
Okay.
Right? On the negative side is just like we're using AI to increase our productivity, increase our ability to produce and use it as a force multiplier. The bad actors are doing the exact same thing, right? They're using it for their benefit. So they are able to accelerate and do their task faster and better, right? So we have to, one, understand that they're using it. So we need to be able to use it. We need to understand it. We need to understand really the underlying, right, how it works. There was a great quote that the CEO Pangea, now part of CrowdStrike, had said. He had pointed out. He said, cybersecurity used to be a situation where we secured bits and bytes, right? We have now moved into securing words and sentences. And that is a spot-on statement about cybersecurity and AI, is we have to now figure out the intent of the human being through natural language, turn that in some way, shape, or form into some sort of machine readable, understandable to the machine, to then have the machine react, right? And that is not an easy feat to happen. And so us cybersecurity practitioners are trying to understand the underlying, right, how large language models work. How do RAGs break apart documents, and the words and the sentences, put them into these graph elements to map the relationships out. All of that, right? We have to get a better understanding of it, so that then we can architect the appropriate guardrails, right? Utilizing tools, utilizing people, process, technology, right? To be able to use it properly. And a little bit sidetracked here is that this situation that we're in really is as I call it, and a lot of people call it, a lopsided warfare, right? Because the bad actors only have to be right once, right?
Right.
Us on the blue team, we have to be right every single time. That one time we're wrong, that's what the bad actors got in, right? The bad actors do not have the limitations, right? They don't have laws, they don't have regulations, they have all this resources, right, at their access. We, on the other hand, we're bound by laws, we're bound by regulation, we're bound by resources, money, people, time, all of that. So we have to get better at utilizing the tools that we have, right? and the tools like AI to be a force multiplier and having our jobs, be better.
You were talking about, again, we're talking about bad actors out there, and I think about how fast AI is moving, and just even when the internet was, I mean, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I remember when the internet rolled out, and there was a lot of discussion about not necessarily cybersecurity, because that terminology wasn't really coined then.
Correct.
And so, but people knew that there could be some things that could happen. And for those that know me, I'm doing air quotes, but things that could happen, but they weren't sure what they were. And
Right.
I think you're bringing up a very good point on the fact that how do you know where your challenges are, where the possibilities of like intrusion in the back end, and if you don't have a plan,
Right.
and I'm really big on planning, strategic planning, and building this plan. And some
Yes.
don't have IT departments. So I think of individuals who don't have IT, or maybe they've got a change in the IT department, or there's an expectation on the IT department,
Mm-hmm.
and loosely that they'll, quote, take care of this. Like, I've got an IT person.
Right.
They'll take care of this. And I think that's, in one way, very unfair, because how are they supposed to do it maybe without the tools?
Yes.
Do you see that?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Again, this goes back to my point about we're limited by resources, we're limited by people, we're limited. We have a lot more restrictions. So we have, given that box,
Mhm.
how can we play in that box to the best ability? Right. And this is where a lot of the IT folks, are really good at thinking outside the box, right? And looking at what are the resources that they can tap into. Right. So whether it's a community, whether it's resources from the government, right? For example, NIST has a lot of resources that you can
So you can go to
download.
these websites and find that.
Yes, absolutely. So, for example, if you want to do a tabletop exercise, right? You may not have a clue on how to do it. Well, if you go to NIST website,
And it's
they have
NIST.
NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. But you go to their website and they have a playbook on how to run a tabletop exercise, along with examples of, for example, the most popular one, ransomware. So
Ransomware.
So internally now you can just use that, tweak it to your environment, and have your organization leadership as part of the involvement. And so now they get the awareness. They understand, oh, when a ransomware occurs, right, what on the business stops, right? And from the IT perspective, we can turn up applications, we can turn up servers. That's all well and good, right? But that does not solve the problem of actually is the business running, right?
Yes.
For the business to run, you may have to have a dependency of 4 or 5 different applications, and however many servers and database servers, whatever it may be. All that has to be up and running for the business to operate, right? On the business side, they may not realize the level of complexity and involvement to get that up, because on the business side, it could be as simple as, I just need to do payroll. I just go onto this website, I do payroll, and that's it. From the user perspective, that's all they see. But on the behind the scenes, on the IT side, for that to work, you're dependent on all of this infrastructure, right? By having something like a tabletop exercise and having both the IT side and the business side coming together, it brings awareness on both fronts, because IT doesn't really know what business does. This type of collaborative working together gives more awareness to the fact that everything is interdependent, and let's figure out ways, right, that we can work together instead of being in our own separate lanes and not talking to each other. Let's think about how we can collaboratively work together to figure out the best way to go about, solving these issues. And again, it all boils down to being resourceful, right? Whatever resources out there, there's plenty of communities out there, websites. There's a lot of both free and low barrier to entry type of resources out there to get you started really, really quickly.
Excellent. Well, now I get to my fun question. What are you reading or what are you watching? I hope it's not about cybersecurity. But
I love reading nonfiction books. For some reason, fiction. One, I'm a slow reader. If I read fiction, I start to fall asleep. Right. So I love nonfiction. The latest one I am actually listening to because I'm a slow reader is Never Split the Difference, and it is a book about how to negotiate, right? And the reason why I'm reading that is because in my world, because everything that we do is intangible for the most part, right? How to represent that information, that this is why you need it, right? And there are certain things you don't want to compromise. So how do you present that information? How do you make it compelling so that you don't have to split the difference, right?
Right.
Because if you do, then you're bringing more risk, right, into the environment.
Excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hearing more about cybersecurity, and I'm, right now at a conference that we're talking about this and AI and the power and what the future might hold for it. So,
Yes.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on.
Thank you for the invitation. Great talking to you today, Dr. Gore.
And thank you to our listeners who are sharing and liking the show. We appreciate you. And thank you to our sponsors, Edward Jones, financial advisor, Jennifer Penzition, and J. Foster Jewelers, family owned, offering the finest natural gemstones, stunning engagement rings, and brilliant diamonds. Thank you both for your sponsorship. And of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates Ltd, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.